especially for your crimble, Beetle people, as played by the late George Harrison. The Egmond Toledo model, the basic student version, known as Rossetti in Great Britain. Let's get a little bit more acquainted with the model, shall we? What is good, Beetle people? You know, every time I use this little dipstick thing, I always like look at the video later and it looks like I have like a lazy eye or something. I don't know, man. It's not me. I really don't have no lazy eye. So today we're going to focus on George Harrison's first guitar. Sticking with firsts. Talk about a historic guitar. You know, I mean, talk about a guitar that shaped rock history, man. The Beatles' lead guitarist. He started out on an Egmond. And Egmond was a Dutch company that was founded, you know, right around 1932, 33. There was a guy who was retired, I think, like a rail station guy, something like that. And he played guitar. You know, he had a little guitar school. And he decided to start importing guitars from like Russia, like White Russia, Lithuania, you know, Eastern Europe. And he was selling them with like a little gramophone, like how to tune the guitar, a little record, you know. And he gave lessons, but he was making money, you know, selling this package thing, you know. And then the Second World War hit, and my man couldn't get no guitars from Russia. So him and his two sons just bunkered down and started making guitars themselves. You know, didn't become Nazis. So they continued making these beautiful guitars, man. They made them. In Great Britain, in the 50s, they started, there was a company called Rossetti, which is a music distributor, and they were getting these guitars, you know, with no Headstock name on it, you know what I mean? They would put a Rossetti label right in the sound hole. And they, I think around about 55, George Harrison, I think, got the first one. I think it was a second-hand one from Arthur Kelly, maybe? I don't know. I haven't really, I have the Beatles anthology. I just got it out. It's like the Bible over here. So we'll take a look at it in a little bit and see if I was right. And what else can I say about it? You know what I mean? Outside of Great Britain, no. Egmond did a lot of their own distribution. They got the United States market. Most of the ones that came over, and the States had pick guards. That was just, I guess, the preference. I got a whole bunch of different ones, so we'll go over them individually. So let's give you a little bit of background on the great George Harrison's one. So let's go over to Beatle Bible right now. Let me just flip this thing around here. I'm not really... Got that flipped around. Good. Okay. This is like the Bible right here, man. Look at this. It's all... I love you, Beatles. And this is cool as like a reference, really, because George Harrison was involved in it. This is before he died. You know what I mean? And before McCartney's like, well, let me see if I could, you know, make out the race of just for 1 minute here. This is when George was still with us. So some cool stuff in here from George's personal, you know, archives and stuff, pictures. There it is, man. You know, he had the big triangle hole. You know, no pick guard. Because George must have been like 10 years old there. Must have been like, this must be like around 54. So he had one of the first ones. There he is with his boy. He was a little boy. Look at him, man. Arthur Kelly. I think that's the dude who gave him the guitar. And this is from George's collection. This is like the last picture he had of it before it like disappeared from his whereabouts. He'd already sacked the tuning keys off there. He's taking the bridge long gone. The tailpiece is still there. But it resurfaced, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that, and they fixed it up. It's got the wrong bridge on there. But, you know what I mean? Who knows if it's even the right one? You know what I'm saying? This is the last picture that George ever had of it. So, let's actually take a look over here at what guitars I got. Now, this is pretty much, like I was saying, trying to get you like a full shot here. Stateside, this was the George Harrison. It got the right tailpiece. The George Harrison tailpiece has got the original plastic, you know what I mean, bridge there. Let's see if I can get a flash on going here. Flash Gordon, man. And it's got the plastic bridge. This is the Egmond pretty much label that was used, from like the 50s to like the end of the 60s. And it was like 15 years, the same label. And all the export model of the United States. So this is the George Harrison one, and the only difference really is that he had the Rossetti label in the middle there, no pick guard, and his headstock was natural. Had no black paint on the actual headstock. Just natural, clear. You know what I mean? Brian May of Queen also had the exact same guitar. Forgot to mention that. The great Brian May, before he cut up his little table with his dad. But he unlike George Harrison, cannibalizing it, he worshipped that thing. I think he recently had it restored by the top luthier in the world or something like that. But this is it in pretty great condition. A couple little odds and sods about the model, just to give you a little closer kind of look. The 50s one have a shorter headstock. You know what I mean? You'll see that the Egmonds all the way at the top. This is pre-Beatles. You know what I mean? This is going to be George Harrison specs. It's before when they started importing them en masse in around '64, when the Beatles were nuts. They have a little, you can take the neck off. There's a little cap there. You can pop it off and just unscrew the neck and pop it out if you'd like. You can shim it. You know what I mean? If you get too high action. These guitars suck, though. They're not very good to play. They don't sound good. You know what I mean? They're just the fact that George Harrison, you know what I mean? I don't know, maybe Brian May can make it sound good, but they have this little plastic strap button. You know what I'm saying? They usually will break, you know what I mean, on the more fucked up ones. It's a standard sunburst on the back, and these are the ones made right in Holland, you know what I mean? And the back has a 8-digit serial number that means absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? They're just random numbers, brother. Don't even try to figure it out, because there is no rhyme or reason. I mean, a lot of them begin with 7. You know what I mean? But they begin with 2, begin with 1. You know what I mean? In the Toledo series, especially, there is no rhyme or reason. These are the George Harrison tuners, which are they're just like chrome clear metal. You know what I mean? They don't have. The later ones have cross-cut designs, and I'll show you that. We'll know about that. It's got a nice fat baseball bat neck, and that's about that, man. You know what I'm saying? It's not a great guitar. It doesn't play good. It's got that real Chief Bird plastic bridge, and Harrison didn't really use it very long. You know what I mean? He got his hands on some other guitar. McCartney had I think his first electric guitar was an Egmond too. I believe it was a Rossetti Solid 7. Solid 7, and I believe he turned it into a bass. He put piano strings on it, and it amplified, you know what I mean? Put another pickup on it, and he made it into a bass. And I believe that the Beatles smashed it into the street in Hamburg. I think that's the case. So, let's get over to the American ones that were made for Beatlemania, you know what I mean? This was sort of cowboy one. This one might actually have been a little bit before the Beatles. You know what I mean? I think they pretty much gave up on this, you know what I mean, around that period, because they're just making so many of them. You know what I mean? So this might have been actually 63, but who the fuck knows? This is the better condition of the two. I actually got these both for $20. I got this one for $45, all the same swap meet in the middle of New Jersey. Right, and these two I got for $20 a piece, within a week of each other. Having never seen one, you know what I mean, ever in the market, I got from 2 different vendors. You know what I'm saying? Flashback on there, good. Okay, so this one basically has the original bridge on it, and it's like the red color. I'll give you some quick sort of looks on this one. It's pretty. Nice thing. It's got this, for the Americans, they usually had this little, look like a little sperm. I don't know. Deformed sperm. Maybe that's an E? Yeah, I guess that's an E for Egmond. And see, it's got the longer headstock. And I'll show you together in a second. And this is like the waffle pattern I was telling you about. You know what I mean? Tuner 3 on strips. I think they made them themselves in-house because they're unlike, you know, spacing's like a little odd, you know, Egmond spacing. This one's still got the cap. These usually are gone. They're usually missing. And this is intact, so that's a nice little guitar. And it actually still pretty good on this one, but it is a terrible guitar. Yet and still. This one was the first one I ever got. And you see the label's been ripped out of there. It didn't have the bridge. This is actually, if you see the George Harrison one in the museum, kind of like the bridge that's on the George Harrison one right now. Or I don't even know if it is really the George Harrison one. It might be somebody saying it was George Harrison one and try to sell it for, you know, $250,000, whatever they got for it. This is, you know what I mean? Usually the conditions you'll see it in. That end cap will be missing. Yeah. Luckily this isn't broken. And the label's all ripped out. But this was the first one I got. And I was happy to get it because, oh, Beatles, man. And I'm going to show you. Let me just put this on pause here. What I'm talking about with the short versus long headstock. Now, the long headstocks, this is like, you know, a 64-ish model. You know what I mean? When the Beatles, you know, drove the popularity of the guitar worldwide, sky high. And everybody was making guitars, started making them. You know what I mean? Look how long that headstock is. This is the Beatles, post-Beatles headstock. Now, pre-Beatles, which you would want for George Harrison specs, have the short headstock. Now, of course, his was natural, like I was saying, but it's shorter. It's not as long. See how, you know, you can put them right up to each other. You can see what I'm talking about, long versus short. So, short is what you want, people. That's the one to look for. You know what I mean? Both have the 0 fret, which is cool. A little bit of European, you know what I mean, snobbery there. And there it's that, you know what I mean, for years, toward the end of the 60s, sort of drying up. So who would save Egmond? It was an American, eh? It was the Nazareth-based C.F. Martin Company, yes. Back in 72, they were looking for somebody to get the subcontract work for their budget line, like the Sigma of the day, called Vega, it was called. And Egmond got it, man. They got the contract. And Egmond straightened them out, man. They straightened them out. They got that Martin styling. You know, went from a company that was like a dad and his, you know what I mean, 2 sons. You know what I mean, never built guitars before, just building, you know what I mean, basic woodshed guitars to, you know, going under principles by the C.F. Martin Company, right? So what did that do, man? That basically changed the way they built guitars. But in 78, financial squabbles got in the way. The Mexicans came calling, and Martin pulled the contract. By 82, the company went bankrupt. I do have a guitar from 1981-ish, the last Toledo model, one of the rarest ones, and you can see the Martin stylings on it. So hang on one second, and here it is, man. Check it, dig that label. It's like 1980, 1981-ish. By this time, it was known as the, see that basic student model. I think it's BS, Basic Student 3. This is one of the last ones Egmonds made in Holland. And it's actually like a really great guitar. You can see Martin has left their mark on our Egmond. This one, actually, I got it. 2 of the tuning keys had been replaced years and years ago. You see, all the replacements are already all yellow. I just left them for the, you know what I mean, for the coolness of it. These look like they're probably, you know, outsourced anyway. By that time, they probably weren't making them in-house anymore. This is the last of the last, man. And it is a great guitar. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful guitar. And it sounds unlike these ones, man, which should hang their head in shame. Sonically, this one is a gorgeous, gorgeous guitar. And it sounds superb. So I'm going to give you a little bit, a sample of that. Not from me, personally, but in the heart of the man that made this guitar even on the radar. Why we're even talking about it. So, peace be with you, my brothers and sisters. Dig it. George said about the Egmond. It was a real cheapo, horrible guitar, but it was okay at the time. I saw it had the little bolt in the back of the neck. Being inquisitive, I got a screwdriver, unscrewed it, and the whole neck fell off. I couldn't get it back on properly, so I put it in the cupboard in 2 pieces and left it there. Finally, it seemed like a year later, my brother Pete's fixed it back together for me. Now it had a concave neck, so the most you could get out of it was a couple chords. All the frets buzzed in the strings. The hit the terrible, the frets horrible. It's just dastardly. Hare Krishna, George. Hare Krishna, my man. So there it is, man. One last thing about the Egmonds, because they're pretty cheap, but I mean, as far as my opinion and desirability, even if you're going to get like a long handle headstock, you know what I'm saying, get one that says Egmond on it, because like in the late 60s, mid 60s, they started doing them natural, just like Harrison's. Even a lot of them had no pick guards, like the student models. But they had like a Hofner, kind of like Gumby headstock, and those in my opinion are like the worst of the lot, man. Anyway, short headstock's what you want, but that's a garbage guitar either way. So I'm going to give you a little sound test in my professional, unprofessional way, as always. With the better one, you know, the Martin inspired one, my people. I'm trying to cut off my head. I don't want you to see me. I don't want you to, you know, my embarrassment to garnish any kind of embarrassment. Like I said, I'm not a guitar player, people, but you know, I mean, I just want you to get a sound, you know, here, you know, like what this one sounds like. It's the best of the lot. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo doo doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. There it is, man. Egmond Toledo. God bless you, George. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna for the Crimble.